Dr. Darren Porcher is staying with us, and we are very privileged to have Dr. Porcher with his just brilliant background. NYPD retired lieutenant, criminal justice professor at Pace, and former Army officer. Like, if that's not enough, on the Piscopo show, we have Paul DiGiacomo, president of the Detectives Endowment Association, to join us as well. Paul, welcome to the program, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Joe. Pleasure to be here.
No, you know what? Listen, first of all, gentlemen, I have to tell you, thank you for your service to the United States, to the city of New York. You put your lives on the line every single day, and it's just an impossible situation. Paul, let me ask you, if I may, and I don't want to make it political, but I will. The disrespect for law enforcement, it seems, and I don't know, I know, is it coming out of Albany? Is it coming out of the mayor's office in New York? Are you feeling that, as head of the Detectives Endowment Association, that there's a disrespect for law enforcement at the top?
Well, there's a disrespect for quite some time now, and it's been going on for quite a few years. If you think about under this administration in the city of New York, we've lost Lewin Ramos, Brian Moore, Randolph Holder, Police Officer Familia, Paul Tizzulo, Detective Simonson. That's a lot of police officers' lives. And it's not just about the police officers, but it's also about the citizens of New York. There are dozens and dozens of citizens throughout the city that have been killed and shot under this administration because of the lack of support for law enforcement.
Man, oh man. And how much of a disaster, Paul, I want to ask you, and then Darren, I want to ask you, but Paul, how much of a disaster is this bail reform in New York, man?
Well, it's very troubling because we have to keep bad people in jail, and they're not keeping criminals and violent felons in jail. They're putting them back on the street to victimize the people of this great city.
Did you believe the recent uptick in violent crime that we've seen in New York is directly attributable, Paul, to this bail reform?
Oh, without a doubt. And let me say this about the uptick in crime, Joe. That's not a true reflection of the number. That number is higher because a lot of people are not coming forward and reporting the crime because of these new discovery laws. They're afraid to come forward, and that's wrong. The people that are victimized should not feel afraid to come forward to report a crime, and they should be able to support the police and go out there and let us make the arrest we have to make and put that person in jail.
Paul DiGiacomo, president of the Detectives Endowment Association, Dr. Darren Porcher with us as well. You know, and as you listen, and I know, you know, Darren, I take this seriously. We have a swath of the NYPD that listen every morning, man. They listen every single morning, and I'll say to a police officer, I'll say, thanks for your service. Hey, Joe, we hear you on the radio. Thank you. So to all the police officers out there, when were you a cop, if I may? What years were you a police officer?
I was a cop from 1991, and I retired as a lieutenant in 2011.
Wow, man! You put your time in. So, but you see the change coming, and it does. The political correctness is literally killing us. I mean, and how do you, when you go into a stressed area? This is the question I always wonder. And Paul, you could jump into it, but let me start you with Darren, if I may. You go into an area, man, and we talked about it off mic. You go into a tough area, there's a domestic violence problem. There's something that's going wrong. God forbid somebody gets hurt on the street. It's 911. Police officers go out. Where did the disrespect start? And for these people to feel, the folks in these areas to feel that they could throw water on police officers, or now worse, what happened over the weekend, and shoot at police officers. When did that start, man?
Well, when we look at the evolution of policing and the disrespect against police officers, I want to say the rhetoric, it's something that goes through peaks and valleys. When we go back to the 1970s, we had more cops that were killed than any other point in time. So a lot of that evolved around socioeconomics. But as the market progressed, society progressed. But then it's interestingly enough, when we came into the de Blasio administration, as my counterpart just mentioned, we've had a host of different officers that were assassinated. And we had three very similar cases. We go back to the, as my counterpart stated, the assassination of officers Lewin Ramos. This was a byproduct of Mayor de Blasio's outrage in connection with the Staten Island District Attorney's unwillingness to indict Officer Pantaleo. Mayor de Blasio came out and stated that this was an outrage. He felt that his son should conduct himself a certain way when he's dealing with police officers. What that did was that rhetoric spewed a level of outrage amongst the anti-police sentiment, so to speak. So we had a madman that traveled from Maryland to New York, subsequently shot and killed 2 police officers in uniform in their police vehicle. We fast forwarded a couple of years later. Then we have Officer Familia that's in the same position.
Yeah.
She's sitting in her patrol vehicle up in the Bronx. We have another madman that comes, shoots and kills her while she's in her police vehicle. Then, just recently, we had another madman that attempted to shoot and kill 2 officers, once again, in their police vehicles. These are uniformed cops. This is a precedent that's been set forth within the de Blasio administration, and I don't feel that he's really come forth the way he should have in terms of putting in play the fortifications necessary to protect officers. So when you ask me about the rhetoric, or I want to say the anti-cop rhetoric that's coming towards the police, it's not just an attack on police officers, but it's an attack on our society as a whole, because police officers are our first line of defense.
Dr. Darren Porcher, before we let you guys go, Paul DiGiacomo, president of the Detectives Endowment Association. Paul, tell me about the important role detectives played in this investigation into the Bronx shooting.
First, let me say that all the members of the service in the 401 precinct, they did an amazing job on patrol downstairs in that precinct house, and the detectives up in the detective squad and the homicide squad did an amazing job on putting this case together, and this individual will be convicted and be put in prison where he belongs for a long time. They really do a great job. They contributed a lot. They went out and got all the evidence. You had the crime scene detectives out on the scene. They put an airtight case against this individual to make sure that he's put away for a long time.
You know, Paul DiGiacomo, thanks for your service, man.
Thank you.
And the Detectives Endowment Association. Darren, you're such a good guy too, man. Appreciate it very much. Good to see
Thanks
you.
for having
And
me.
a big shout out to the Sergeant Joe Imperatrice was with us yesterday. Blue Lives Matter, and to my buddy Frank Siller. We're thinking about you, Frank, and all the great work that the TunnelToTowers.org Foundation does in helping these. Yes, please.
Yes, I'd like to just say one more thing, Joe, if you don't mind.
Please.
I'd like to call on the mayor of the city of New York to support us and go up to Albany and ask the Speaker of the Assembly, Carl Hastings, to reform this bail reform. We need some safeguards in place, give the judges more power to keep violent criminals in jail, and reform this discovery law where victims of crimes are not afraid to come forward to report them.
And Paul, how about firing the parole board? Is that none of
Well, that's another whole story. We could do another hour show on that. You know, that weak parole board, there are so many people that these police officers that were killed. I think if you go back to the early 2000, 2001, every cop that was killed, I venture to say that most of the people that committed those shootings were out on parole.
Yeah.
And not only police officers, that victimize the people of this city also.
Heroes right here in the studio on the show. Honored to have you here. Darren, great to see you, my friend. And thank you. Paul DiGiacomo, thanks for all the work that you're doing as well.
Great to see
God
you,
bless.
Joe. Thank you.
Godspeed. We got your back. Thanks for having ours.